The night Lily Anderson was thrown out of her in-laws' home, rain poured mercilessly from the sky. Lightning split the darkness as she stood frozen on the mansion's steps, one hand protectively cradling her 8-month pregnant belly, the other clutching a hastily packed suitcase. Behind her, the massive oak door slammed with such force that the brass knocker rattled like a final judgment. The echo of Victoria Anderson's words still hung in the air. "If you won't do what's best for the baby, then you're no longer welcome in this house." The jingling sound of metal hitting pavement drew Lily's gaze downward. Her house keys, thrown after her like scraps to a dog, glinted in a puddle at her feet. She didn't bend to retrieve them. Those keys no longer mattered, not when the life she'd built with Daniel had shattered 3 months ago with a single phone call in the dead of night. Single vehicle accident. Died on impact. No suffering. Rain soaked through her light jacket as she made her way to her old sedan, the only possession her in-laws hadn't managed to take from her. The car had been parked in the servants' area since her marriage, deemed too unsightly for the circular driveway where luxury vehicles belonged. Now it represented her only freedom. Sliding behind the wheel, water dripping from her dark hair onto the worn upholstery, Lily caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. Hazel eyes shadowed with exhaustion, cheekbones too prominent for a woman in her third trimester. She barely recognized herself anymore. The confident structural engineer who'd once supervised construction sites and commanded respect from crews of hardened men had faded into this hollow-eyed stranger. The baby kicked vigorously, as if protesting their shared circumstances. "I know, little one," Lily whispered, her palm flat against the movement beneath her skin. "I don't know what we're going to do either." A torn wedding photo lay on the dashboard, Daniel's smiling face looking back at her, his arm around her waist as they stood before a flower-laden altar. She'd been so hopeful that day, believing his family would eventually accept her despite her middle-class background. The merger of old money with new beauty, the society pages had called it. A fairy tale. No one mentioned that fairy tales often began with orphaned girls and ended with wicked stepmothers. Lily started the engine, the familiar rumble offering small comfort as she backed away from the Anderson estate. In her rearview mirror, the mansion's lights grew smaller, pinpricks of false warmth in the stormy night. 6 months ago, she'd had everything. A loving husband, a beautiful home, a baby on the way. Now she had nothing but this car, $2,000 in a personal account her in-laws couldn't touch, and whatever she'd managed to fit into one suitcase. The radio crackled to life as she turned onto the main road, the weatherman's voice grave over the static. The National Weather Service has issued a severe weather warning for Madison County and surrounding areas. This could be the strongest storm system to hit our region in 50 years. Residents are advised to seek shelter immediately. Lily switched off the radio, the irony too bitter to bear. Seek shelter. If only it were that simple. Her friends had scattered after the wedding, her parents had died years ago in a plane crash, and Daniel was gone forever. There was only one place left to go, the lake house her grandfather Joseph Miller had left her 5 years ago. The property had stood empty since his death, tangled in legal complications she'd never fully understood. Now it represented her last refuge. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the letter she'd tucked into her jacket pocket before leaving. Yellowed with age, it had arrived on her 18th birthday, her grandfather's steady handwriting spanning the page. "One day, Lily, when you need it most, the lake house will be waiting. It will always be your sanctuary." At the time, she'd found the message oddly melodramatic for her practical, engineer-minded grandfather. Now its prescience sent a shiver down her spine. The rural roads grew narrower as she drove deeper into the countryside, rain hammering against the windshield faster than the wipers could clear it. Massive trees bent under the force of the wind, their branches scraping against the car like skeletal fingers. 20 miles more and she'd reached the turnoff to Evergreen Lake, where her grandfather's house stood on 3 acres of woodland overlooking the water. Headlights suddenly appeared in her rearview mirror, high-beamed and approaching fast. Squinting against the glare, Lily pressed harder on the accelerator. The road was too narrow and winding for someone to safely pass, especially in this weather. Yet the vehicle behind her, some kind of black SUV, continued gaining ground, riding her bumper with aggressive intent. Lily's heart hammered against her ribs as the SUV swerved into the oncoming lane, pulling alongside her. Through rain-streaked windows, she caught a glimpse of a man's silhouette, his features obscured in shadow. The SUV nudged closer, metal nearly kissing metal, forcing her toward the shoulder where a steep ravine waited beyond the guardrail. Instinctively, Lily tapped her brakes and cut the wheel sharply left, executing a precision maneuver she'd learned during her college days when weekend autocross racing had been her stress release. The SUV shot forward, its driver unprepared for her sudden deceleration. In the split second of advantage, Lily spotted a narrow dirt road cutting through the trees and wrenched the wheel again, plunging her sedan into the darkness between towering pines. The old logging road was barely wide enough for her car, branches scraping the paint as she navigated by instinct more than sight. Behind her, headlights swept through the trees as the SUV attempted to follow, its wider body scraping against trunks her smaller vehicle had cleared. Lily pushed deeper into the forest, knuckles white on the steering wheel. After a quarter-mile of jarring bumps and heart-stopping slides through mud, she killed her headlights and pulled into a dense copse, cutting the engine. Seconds stretched into minutes as she sat in darkness, one hand pressed to her mouth to quiet her breathing, the other on her belly where the baby had gone eerily still, as if sensing danger. Through the rain-patterned windows, she watched headlights sweep the main road, the SUV passing her hidden turnoff. Only after the red taillights disappeared into the stormy night did Lily allow herself to exhale. Who would follow her? The Andersons had many business rivals, but this felt personal. More disturbing was the timing. She told no one of her plans to leave tonight, had made the decision only after Harold Anderson's cold ultimatum hours earlier. Relinquish custody decisions to us, and we'll provide for you and the child. Refuse, and you're on your own. When she felt certain the pursuit had ended, Lily restarted her car and carefully navigated back to the main road, taking a different route toward the lake. The old sedan struggled up the final hill, windshield wipers fighting a losing battle against the downpour. At last, the silhouette of her grandfather's Victorian-style lake house appeared against the tempestuous sky, its windows dark and unwelcoming. The house looked smaller than she remembered from childhood summers, spent running through its halls and secret passages. The wraparound porch sagged slightly on one side, white paint peeling to reveal weathered wood beneath. Once manicured gardens had gone wild, reclaiming the front yard with tangled undergrowth. But the maple tree, where her grandfather had hung a swing, still stood strong against the elements. Lily parked and sat for a long moment, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. The baby stirred again, more insistent this time. "This is it for now," she told her unborn child, stroking her belly through the damp fabric of her shirt. "The only place left for us." With her suitcase bumping against her leg and rain soaking through her clothes, Lily made her way to the porch. The spare key, if her grandfather hadn't changed his habits, would be hidden under the large river stone beside the garden gnome, a hideously grinning ceramic creature that had terrified her as a child. Her fingers found it exactly where it had always been, cold and waiting, as if it had been expecting her all these years. The door creaked open, revealing darkness and the musty smell of abandonment. Lily fumbled for the light switch, but nothing happened. The power was out, likely from the storm. The beam of her phone's flashlight cut a weak path through the shadows as she stepped inside, closing the door against the howling wind. Water dripped from her clothes onto the hardwood floor, the sound unnervingly loud in the silent house. Lily swept her light across the entryway, half expecting to see the place ransacked or vandalized after 5 years of emptiness. Instead, everything remained eerily untouched, as if her grandfather had simply stepped out momentarily, rather than passed away. Furniture draped in white sheets stood like patient ghosts awaiting his return. A wave of dizziness washed over her, accompanied by a sharp cramp that bent her double. Pregnancy complications or just stress and exhaustion. Either way, she needed to rest. Moving deeper into the house, Lily headed for the kitchen where her grandfather had always kept an emergency supply of candles and matches. The kitchen, like the rest of the house, seemed suspended in time. Dishes still in the drying rack, a coffee mug on the counter beside a faded newspaper. Only the fine layer of dust covering everything spoke of passing years. Opening cupboards with one hand, flashlight balanced awkwardly under her chin, Lily located the emergency supplies. candles, matches, a battery-powered lantern that still worked when she tested it. As light bloomed stronger, casting warm circles through the kitchen, another detail caught her eye. The coffee mug on the counter, it wasn't covered in dust like everything else. In fact, it looked recently used, a dried coffee ring marking its bottom. And the chair at the kitchen table was pulled out slightly, as if someone had risen from it in a hurry. A floorboard creaked overhead. Lily froze, lantern clutched in suddenly trembling fingers. The sound didn't come again, but the hairs on the back of her neck stood at attention. Someone had been here, perhaps still was. The realization pooled like ice water in her stomach. Was it connected to the SUV that had tried to run her off the road? She needed a weapon. Her eyes darted around the kitchen, landing on a cast-iron skillet hanging from a rack, heavy enough to do damage if swung with sufficient force. She reached for it, wrapping her fingers around the cool handle just as another creak sounded, this time from the hallway leading to the stairs. Hard hammering, Lily edged toward the kitchen doorway, skillet raised. The storm chose that moment to intensify, rain hammering against the windows with renewed fury as wind howled through the eaves. A door slammed somewhere upstairs, probably blown open by a draft, she told herself, not quite believing it. The logical part of her brain, the engineer who calculated structural loads and safety margins, insisted she should leave immediately, drive to the nearest town and find a motel. But where would she go after that? How long before her meager savings ran out? The baby kicked again, a painful reminder of her responsibility. She couldn't risk having nowhere to go. Tightening her grip on the skillet, Lily moved through the dark house toward her grandfather's study, where he'd kept an old shotgun mounted on the wall. She'd never fired a gun in her life, but the mere presence of a firearm might deter whoever was trespassing. The study door stood slightly ajar, a weak beam of light visible through the crack. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Definitely not her imagination. Someone was inside, searching through her grandfather's papers by flashlight. Moving silently despite her pregnancy, she positioned herself beside the door. Skillet raised high. 1 heartbeat. 2. On the third, she shoved the door open with her shoulder, the hinges protesting with a shriek that matched her own battle cry as she rushed into the room. A figure spun toward her, flashlight beam momentarily blinding her. Lily swung the skillet wildly, connecting with something solid. A man's voice cried out in pain. The flashlight dropped, rolling across the floor and casting chaotic shadows as Lily raised the skillet for another blow. The crack of a gunshot froze them both. Plaster dust rained down from a new hole in the ceiling. That's quite enough excitement for one night, I think. The calm, authoritative voice came from the doorway behind Lily. She whirled around to find an elderly woman aiming a sleek pistol with the steady hands of someone who knew exactly how to use it. Despite her advanced age, somewhere in her 70s, Lily guessed, the woman stood ramrod straight, silver hair pulled back in a practical bun, her weathered face lined with determination rather than fear. "Mrs. Cooper?" Lily lowered the skillet slightly, recognition dawning. Margaret Cooper, her grandfather's neighbor from down the lake. They'd met briefly at Joseph's funeral 5 years ago. "Hello, Lily. I see you've met our uninvited guest." Margaret's eyes, sharp despite her age, remained fixed on the intruder. "You, hands where I can see them." The man Lily had struck raised his hands slowly, revealing a middle-aged face with unremarkable features. His professional attire, dark suit now rumpled from their scuffle, seemed out of place for a common burglar. Margaret reached into her pocket and withdrew what looked like a police-issued taser. "This will do more damage than her skillet. Now, who are you and why are you going through Joseph Miller's papers?" The man's eyes darted between them, calculating odds Lily could almost see tabulated in his gaze. "James Reynolds, private investigator." "Who hired you?" Margaret's voice remained steady, the taser unwavering in her grip. "Client confidentiality prevents me from—" His words cut off with a gasp as Margaret fired the taser, the electrodes missing him by inches and embedding in the wall beside his head. "Next one won't miss. Let's try again. Who hired you?" The man swallowed visibly. "Nova Energy. They're interested in purchasing this property." Lily's brow furrowed. Nova Energy? The name sounded vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place why it would be significant enough to warrant breaking and entering. And the man in the black SUV who tried to run my granddaughter off the road, was he one of yours too? Margaret's question sent a shock through Lily. Granddaughter? The elderly woman had called her that twice now. I work alone. Reynolds eyed him. What SUV? A loud crash from upstairs interrupted them, followed by the sound of breaking glass. Margaret's attention wavered for just an instant, but it was enough. The private investigator lunged forward, knocking the taser from her hand and shoving past Lily toward the door. Stop him, Margaret shouted, but the man was already gone, footsteps pounding down the hallway toward the front door. A moment later, they heard it slam. Margaret moved with surprising speed for her age, retrieving the taser and hurrying to the window. Through rain-streaked glass, they watched headlights cut through the darkness as a car sped away down the drive. Are you all right? Margaret turned back to Lily, concern replacing the steel in her eyes. You shouldn't be on your feet in your condition, especially after such a shock. I'm fine, Lily replied automatically, though her legs trembled with spent adrenaline. But I don't understand. You called me your granddaughter, and you knew about the SUV that followed me. Margaret's weathered face softened. You'd better sit down, dear. We have a great deal to discuss, and some of it might come as a shock. She gestured toward the study's leather armchair. When was the last time you ate? You are looking pale. I'm not sitting down until you explain what's going on. How did you know I was here? Why are private investigators searching my grandfather's papers? And why did you call me your granddaughter? Lily kept the skillet gripped firmly in one hand, unwilling to relinquish her only weapon despite Margaret's seemingly protective attitude. I'm not your biological grandmother, if that's what you're worried about. No scandalous family secrets there. Margaret's lips twitched in a brief smile. It was what Joseph and I called each other's families. He was Grandpa Joe to my grandchildren, and I was Grandma Maggie to you, though you were too young to remember. Margaret crossed to the study's large oak desk and pressed something beneath its edge. A soft click sounded and a section of the bookcase swung outward, revealing a small closet. From within, she retrieved a first aid kit and an electric lantern, far more powerful than Lily's battery-operated one. As for how I knew you were here, I've been watching the house for 5 years, ever since Joseph died. He made me promise to keep an eye on the place until you returned. Said someday you'd come back when you needed it most. Margaret's gaze dropped briefly to Lily's pregnant belly. Seems he was right as usual. You've been watching the house for 5 years? Why would he ask that? Lily finally lowered herself into the armchair, legs no longer willing to support her. Because your grandfather had enemies, powerful ones. Margaret switched on the electric lantern, flooding the study with light. She moved to the window, drawing the curtains closed. That private investigator wasn't just interested in real estate. He was looking for something specific, something Joseph hid here before he died. Lily's mind reeled with questions, but her body suddenly reminded her of more immediate concerns. Her stomach growled audibly, and another cramp sharper than before made her wince. Margaret noticed immediately. When did you last eat? This morning I was packing to leave when... Lily trailed off, the memory of Victoria Anderson's cruel words still too raw. The Andersons threw you out. Margaret's tone made it a statement rather than a question. Joseph always said they were vipers. Come, there's soup in my car. I brought it when I saw your lights in the house. You were watching tonight? I watch every night, but especially tonight. The storm, the power outage, perfect conditions for someone to break in unnoticed. Margaret headed for the door. Stay here, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Keep that skillet handy, just in case. Before Lily could protest, the elderly woman had disappeared into the darkened hallway, leaving her alone with more questions than answers. The storm continued its assault outside, rain lashing against the windows while wind moaned through the eaves. In the semi-darkness, her grandfather's study took on an eerie quality, shadows shifting with each lightning flash. Lily's gaze traveled over the bookshelves lining the walls, filled with engineering manuals, physics textbooks, and dog-eared science fiction novels. Joseph Miller had been a brilliant engineer. Self-taught, he'd always insisted, though his knowledge surpassed many with formal education. He'd specialized in energy systems, consulting for various companies, before retiring early to focus on his own research. A framed photograph on the desk caught Lily's attention. She hadn't noticed it earlier in the commotion. Lifting it closer to the lantern light revealed her grandfather, much younger, standing beside a group of serious-looking men in lab coats. They posed before a modern building bearing a familiar logo. Nova Energy, the same company that had hired the private investigator. The sound of the front door opening announced Margaret's return. She appeared moments later carrying a thermos and a large canvas bag. Homemade chicken soup, still hot. She poured steaming liquid into the thermos cap and handed it to Lily. Drink, you need strength for what's coming. The soup was rich and flavorful, warming Lily from the inside out. As she ate, Margaret emptied the contents of her canvas bag onto the desk. A folder bulging with newspaper clippings, a battery-powered radio, and a small laptop. No electricity, but this has enough charge to show you what you need to see. Margaret opened the laptop and pressed the power button. While it booted up, she spread several newspaper clippings across the desk. I started collecting these after Joseph died. Thought they might be important someday. The headlines spanned decades, most from local papers, but some from scientific journals and national publications. Local engineer takes leave for research expedition, 1974. Joseph Miller returns after 3-year absence, 1907. Mysterious energy breakthrough claimed by independent researcher, 1980. Nova, energy denies industrial espionage allegations, 1985. Reclusive inventor refuses multi-million-dollar offer, 1992. Lily's hands trembled as she examined a photograph accompanying one article. Her grandfather, looking much younger but unmistakable with his distinctive beard, stood beside complicated equipment she couldn't identify. He never talked about any of this, she whispered, tracing her finger over Joseph's face in the yellowed newsprint. No, he wouldn't have, Margaret replied, especially not to you. He was protecting you. From what? That's what Walter Jenkins will explain tomorrow. He was your grandfather's attorney. I remember Mr. Jenkins from the funeral. Lily set down the empty soup cup, her appetite suddenly gone. But I don't understand, what does any of this have to do with Nova Energy hiring investigators to search the house? Margaret's expression darkened. When Joseph disappeared in '74, it wasn't for any research expedition. At least, not the kind people assumed. My late husband worked security at Nova Energy back then. The company spent a fortune trying to find Joseph after he vanished. They weren't the only ones looking either. Before Lily could press further, a violent gust of wind rattled the windows, followed by the distinct sound of breaking glass from elsewhere in the house. Margaret was on her feet instantly, taser in hand. Stay here, she commanded, moving toward the door with a speed and stealth that belied her age. I'm not sitting here alone, Lily countered, struggling to her feet. She grabbed the skillet again, ignoring Margaret's disapproving frown. Together they crept down the hallway toward the source of the noise. The kitchen. Water pooled on the floor beneath a broken window, glass shards glittering in the beam of Margaret's flashlight. The wind had knocked a large branch through the pane, sending it crashing onto the counter. Just a storm, Lily breathed, relieved. Margaret didn't lower her taser. Maybe, or maybe a distraction. As if confirming her suspicion, a muffled thump sounded from the front of the house. They hurried back through the hallway to find the front door standing open, wind and rain sweeping across the entryway floor. Someone's inside, Margaret whispered. We need to get to the basement. The basement? Lily stared at her in confusion. Shouldn't we be trying to leave? Trust me. Margaret took Lily's arm, guiding her firmly toward the kitchen. The basement is the safest place right now. In the kitchen, Margaret headed straight for the pantry, a walk-in space lined with shelves of preserved foods and household supplies. At the back wall, she pressed her hand against what appeared to be a solid wooden panel. It slid aside with a soft hiss, revealing a numeric keypad. Joseph changed the code monthly, but always to something you would know. Margaret stepped aside. What's the date you two went to the lighthouse? The day that changed everything for both of you. Lily's breath caught. How could Margaret know about that? The summer she turned 12, her grandfather had taken her to a lighthouse on the coast. While climbing the spiral staircase, Lily had suffered a severe asthma attack. Joseph had carried her down, administered emergency medication, and rushed her to the hospital. The doctors later confirmed a previously undiagnosed heart arrhythmia that could have been fatal if left untreated. July 16, 2003, she whispered. Try it. Just the numbers. Well, Lily punched in 07-166-2003. Nothing happened. She tried different formats. 716-2003, then just the day and year, 16-2003. The keypad emitted a soft beep, followed by the sound of hydraulics as a section of the pantry floor slid open, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. Go, Margaret urged, pushing Lily forward. I'll seal it behind us. The stairs were solid concrete, illuminated by strips of emergency lighting that activated as they descended. Lily clung to the handrail, her pregnant form making the steep descent precarious. At the bottom, she found herself in a short corridor that ended at a steel door with a handprint scanner. He said the vault required both intellect and blood connection, Margaret explained, positioning Lily in front of the scanner. Only family can open it. Hesitantly, Lily placed her palm against the cool surface. A green light washed over her hand, followed by a mechanical voice. DNA match confirmed. Welcome, Lily Miller. Miller, not Anderson. The system didn't recognize her married name. The vault door swung open, revealing a sight that stole Lily's breath away. Not a vault at all, but an entire laboratory, hidden beneath the house. The space was cavernous, at least 3 times the size of the house's footprint above, and filled with equipment that looked decades ahead of its time. Emergency lighting cast the laboratory in a soft blue glow, illuminating workbenches arranged in a circle, each dedicated to different aspects of research. One section appeared focused on energy systems with what looked like prototype generators and testing equipment. Another held chemistry apparatus and carefully labeled samples. A third contained medical research equipment, complete with microscopes and biological containment units. How is this possible? Lily whispered, her voice echoing slightly in the vast space. How could he build all of this without anyone knowing? Your grandfather was a very determined man, Margaret replied, securing the door behind them. And he had help from people who believed in his work. In the center of the laboratory stood a peculiar apparatus unlike the other equipment. It resembled a transparent cylinder about the size of a coffee can, housed within a complex framework of cables and monitoring systems. Small indicator lights blinked steadily, suggesting the system remained operational despite years of abandonment. What is it? Lily approached cautiously, drawn by an inexplicable fascination. Joseph called it the quantum core, Margaret said, her voice hushed with reverence. It's what Nova Energy has been searching for all these years. Lily circled the device slowly. What does it do? It creates clean, unlimited energy by harnessing what Joseph called quantum vacuum fluctuations, tapping into the energy that exists in empty space itself. Oh, it sounded like science fiction. Yet Lily's engineering background allowed her to recognize the elegance in the design. Even if she couldn't fully grasp the theoretical principles behind it. Her grandfather had always operated at the boundaries of accepted science, following intuitive leaps that often left his peers bewildered. If this works the way you're describing, it would revolutionize energy production worldwide, Lily said slowly. Why hide it? Why not patent it and change the world? Because in the wrong hands, it could be weaponized. Margaret's expression grew grim. The same technology that can generate unlimited energy can also be reversed to extract energy from any source, including living tissue. A chill ran down Lily's spine as the implications became clear. That's why Nova Energy wants it. They've wanted it since 1974, when Joseph first developed the theoretical framework while consulting for them. When he realized what they intended to do with his research, he destroyed his lab notes and disappeared for 3 years. Where did he go? Margaret's eyes took on a haunted quality. He never told anyone the full story. When he returned in '77, he was different, more cautious, paranoid, some might say. He bought this property and began building. She gestured around them. All of this. A wall-mounted monitor suddenly flickered to life, displaying a grid of security camera feeds from around the property. 6 men in tactical gear were systematically searching the house above them, using hand signals to communicate as they moved from room to room. Nova's security team, Margaret identified them, her voice tight. They're looking for the entrance to the lab. How did they find us so quickly? The private investigator must have called for backup when he escaped. Margaret moved to a control panel near the main computer terminal. Joseph prepared for this contingency. Watch. She pressed a sequence of buttons, and several things happened simultaneously. Steel shutters slid over the laboratory's ventilation ducts. The lighting shifted to a dimmer emergency mode, and on the security feeds, they watched as hidden compartments in the house above opened, releasing what appeared to be small, insect-like robots. Distraction devices, Margaret explained, as the tiny machines swarmed toward the intruders. Non-lethal, but effective. They'll buy us time to activate the protocol. What protocol? Instead of answering, Margaret led Lily to the main computer terminal where she initiated a startup sequence. The screens came alive with data streams, and a familiar voice filled the laboratory, Joseph Miller speaking from beyond the grave. A holographic projection appeared before them, showing her grandfather much as Lily remembered him. White-haired, bearded, with intelligent eyes that seemed to peer directly into her soul. The recording was dated just 3 weeks before his death. Lily, the hologram began, its voice eerily lifelike. If you're watching this, then several contingencies have been triggered. You've returned to the lake house, you've discovered the laboratory, and most importantly, you've activated the security protocols that will have alerted certain parties to your presence. Joseph's projection paused, as if gathering thoughts. I don't have much time to explain, but I'll try to give you what you need to make informed decisions. The quantum core is my life's work, an energy conversion technology that creates clean, sustainable power with minimal resources. One small device could power a city block indefinitely. Scaled up, it could revolutionize how humanity generates energy. Images appeared alongside the hologram, showing schematics, test results, prototype iterations. I developed the theoretical framework in the 1960s but lacked resources for practical application. When Nova Energy approached me in 1974, I believed their interest was genuine. Joseph's face hardened. I was wrong. Nova's CEO, Maxwell Graham, quickly recognized that the core could be weaponized. Its energy conversion principles, when reversed, create a devastatingly efficient means of energy extraction. They wanted to develop weapons that could instantly drain all power from enemy infrastructure, or worse, from living tissue. Lily gasped, instinctively protecting her belly with both hands. I refused to continue the research, the hologram continued. That's when I discovered I wasn't a collaborator, but a prisoner. For 3 years, they kept me in a secure facility, forcing my continued work under threat. What they didn't realize was that I had built a fundamental flaw into every prototype, a deliberate limitation that prevented weaponization. On the security monitors, Lily watched as the Nova team regrouped after encountering the robotic swarm. They appeared to be discussing a new approach, pointing toward the kitchen. They were getting closer to discovering the pantry entrance. Joseph's hologram continued its message, unaware of the immediate danger. In 1907, I escaped with the only working prototype and critical research data. Nova has spent decades trying to recreate my work without success. The flaw I introduced requires knowledge they don't possess, knowledge I've preserved for someone I could trust. For you, Lily. The image shifted, showing the wall safe embedded in concrete across the laboratory. The quantum core prototype is secured here, along with complete documentation. The combination requires both genetic confirmation and the correct sequence. Think of our last conversation before you left for college. The advice I gave you about forging your own path. Lily's mind raced back to that day. Her grandfather had quoted Thoreau, "If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours." Success in common hours, she whispered. You have a choice to make, Joseph continued. The world needs this technology, but releasing it carelessly could be catastrophic. I've prepared 3 options. He held up a thumb drive identical to one sitting beside the computer terminal. This contains complete documentation ready for publication through secure channels. The trusted colleagues I've worked with in secret will help protect and implement this knowledge for humanity's benefit. Next, he displayed a small remote device. This will initiate a controlled destruction sequence, erasing all research materials, including the core prototype. Nothing would remain for Nova or others to exploit. Finally, Joseph's expression softened. The third option is to continue my work. The laboratory is yours, Lily. The knowledge is yours. You always had the brilliant mind I lacked. You could take this further than I ever could. On the security monitor's bumpers, two of the Nova operatives had discovered the pantry and were examining the walls methodically. Whatever you choose, do it quickly, the hologram warned, as if somehow anticipating her current predicament. The security alert will bring Nova within hours. Use the emergency exit I've prepared. The passage leads to a drainage culvert half a mile from the property. Margaret knows the rendezvous point. Joseph's image began to fade. I love you, Lily. I've always been proud of you, and I'm sorry for the burden I've placed on your shoulders. Trust your instincts. They've never led you astray. The hologram disappeared, leaving Lily staring at empty air, her mind struggling to process everything she just learned. A countdown appeared on the main screen, 10:42:17 and descending, the time remaining before Nova would break through to the laboratory. We need to move quickly, Margaret urged, already gathering supplies into a backpack. They'll breach the entrance soon. Lily turned toward the wall safe, determined to retrieve the quantum core prototype before escaping. She had less than 11 hours to recover the device, evaluate her options, and escape the property before Nova's forces descended upon her grandfather's legacy and upon her. Lily moved toward the wall safe, heart pounding with every second that ticked away on the countdown clock. The combination required a date, August 28, 2010, the day of her last meaningful conversation with her grandfather before leaving for college. She entered the numbers into the keypad, 08282010. A soft chime acknowledged the correct entry, but the safe remained locked. Next came the retinal scanner, its green light washing over Lily's face. DNA confirmation required, announced the security system. She pressed her palm against the indicated panel. Another chime, another security level cleared. Final authentication, physical key. Margaret appeared at her side, holding a small wooden box. Your grandfather left this with me, said you'd need it when the time came. Inside the box lay a crystalline key unlike anything Lily had ever seen. Not metal, but a translucent material that caught the laboratory's blue light in prismatic patterns. With trembling fingers, Lily inserted the crystalline key into a slot nearly invisible within the safe's design. As the key slid home, it began to glow with an internal blue light that matched the energy signature of the quantum core prototype across the room. The safe door swung open with a series of mechanical clicks. Inside sat a cylinder approximately 6 inches tall and 3 inches in diameter, made of what appeared to be brushed titanium with intricate circuitry visible beneath a transparent section. A soft, pulsing blue light emanated from its core, identical to the larger prototype in the main laboratory, but miniaturized to portable size. Is this it? Lily carefully lifted the device, surprised by its substantial weight. The actual quantum core? Margaret nodded, peering over Lily's shoulder at the mysterious device. The original prototype. According to Joseph, it contains enough power to run this entire laboratory for 50 years. Beneath the cylinder lay a leather portfolio filled with handwritten notes in Joseph's precise script. Lily quickly scanned the first page. The quantum core functions by restructuring energy at the quantum level. It doesn't generate energy, but rather optimizes the conversion of ambient energy into usable power with nearly 100% efficiency. The applications are limitless, from powering entire cities with minimal resource consumption to revolutionizing transportation and industry. She turned to the next page. If reversed, the process could drain energy rather than optimize it. To prevent this, I've built in a fundamental limitation, a genetic lock that prevents the core from being used in reverse mode. My DNA, and by extension Lily's, contains the key sequence. The implications struck Lily like a physical blow. They need me to unlock the full potential of the core. Her hand instinctively moved to her belly, or my child. Which is why we need to get you out of here immediately. Margaret grabbed the portfolio and stuffed it into her backpack alongside the core. The emergency exit tunnel leads to a drainage culvert half a mile from the property. We need to move. On the security monitors, 2 Nova operatives had discovered the hidden entrance in the pantry and were attempting to breach the keypad security. The countdown clock showed less than 10 minutes before they'd break through. Margaret led Lily to the far corner of the laboratory, where a heavy metal door was marked simply "Emergency." Unlike the main entrance, this one operated with a simple mechanical lock that Margaret opened with a key from her pocket. "Joseph gave me this the day before he died. Said if anything happened, I should make sure you reach this tunnel." She pushed the door open to reveal a narrow concrete passage, dimly lit by the same emergency strips as the stairwell. "It's about a quarter-mile walk. Can you manage?" Lily nodded, one hand supporting her lower back as she peered into the claustrophobic passageway. "Do we have a plan for when we get out? Where are we going?" "Walter Jenkins is waiting at the rendezvous point, Joseph's attorney. He has a safe house prepared." Margaret handed Lily a small flashlight. "I'll go last. Make sure the door is secured behind us." The tunnel was narrow and damp, forcing them to move in single file. Lily led the way, one hand cradling her precious cargo, the other trailing against the rough concrete wall for balance. The baby shifted restlessly inside her, perhaps responding to the stress hormones flooding her system. Behind them, the laboratory door sealed with a pneumatic hiss, followed by the sound of mechanical bolts engaging. Margaret's flashlight beam bobbed in the darkness. "That will slow them down, but not for long. Maxwell Graham has resources we can only imagine." The passage sloped gently downward, following the natural contour of the land toward the lake. Water trickled along a central drainage channel, the sound echoing off the close walls. Despite the dim emergency lighting, the darkness pressed in from all sides, feeding Lily's growing sense of claustrophobia. "How much farther?" she called over her shoulder, wincing as another twinge of pain shot through her lower back. "Almost there. You'll see light ahead soon." As if conjured by Margaret's words, a faint glow appeared in the distance. The tunnel widened slightly as they approached what appeared to be a metal ladder leading up to a circular hatch. Above it, moonlight filtered through a grate, the storm having finally passed during their time underground. Margaret climbed first, pushing against the heavy cover. It resisted initially, then gave way with a grinding sound. "All clear," she called down, extending a hand to help Lily navigate the awkward climb with her pregnant belly. They emerged into a concrete drainage culvert, partially hidden by overgrown vegetation. In the distance, Lily could see her grandfather's lake house, now illuminated by floodlights, as Nova's team conducted their search. Black SUVs, identical to the one that had pursued her earlier, parked openly in the driveway. "We need to keep moving," Margaret urged, helping Lily to her feet. "Walter is waiting at my cabin about half a mile through these woods." The forest floor was still sodden from the storm, making their progress slow and treacherous. Twice Lily nearly fell, saved only by Margaret's surprisingly strong grip. Each time, fear for her unborn child sent a fresh surge of adrenaline through her system. After 20 minutes of difficult hiking, they reached a small clearing where a modest cabin stood beneath towering pine trees. A single light burned in the window, and an older model sedan was parked beside it. Not the kind of vehicle that would draw attention on rural roads. Before they could approach, the cabin door opened to reveal an elderly man with a shock of white hair and a deeply lined face. Walter Jenkins had aged considerably since Lily last saw him at her grandfather's funeral, but his piercing blue eyes retained their sharpness. "You made it," he called softly, relief evident in his voice. "Quickly, inside. Nova has patrols searching the surrounding area." The cabin's interior was sparsely furnished but warm, a fire crackling in a stone hearth. Maps and documents covered a large wooden table, alongside several laptops and communication equipment that looked military-grade. Walter secured the door behind them, throwing 3 separate deadbolts before turning to Lily. "My God, look at you, the spitting image of your mother." His weathered hand reached out as if to touch her face, then dropped awkwardly. "Joseph would be proud to see you carrying on his legacy, and carrying new life as well." Margaret emptied her backpack onto the table, carefully setting the quantum core prototype aside. "She found it, Walter, exactly where Joseph said it would be." Walter's eyes widened at the sight of the cylinder, its blue light pulsing steadily in the dim cabin. After all these years, he reached toward it with reverent hands, then stopped short of touching it. "Does it work as he claimed?" "We haven't had time to test it." Lily lowered herself gratefully into a chair, her back aching from exertion. "My grandfather's notes suggest it does, but there's more to it than just clean energy. There's a genetic lock built into the system, something tied to our DNA that prevents it from being weaponized. Which explains why Nova wants you as badly as they want the core itself. Walter returned to the table, spreading out a series of documents. You should know who we're dealing with, Lily. Maxwell Graham isn't just Nova Energy's CEO. He's the man who held your grandfather captive for 3 years. A brilliant physicist himself, but consumed by ambition and utterly without moral constraint. How does this connect to the Andersons? The private investigator at the house mentioned Nova wanting to buy the property, but why would my in-laws be involved? Walter and Margaret exchanged a significant look before Walter continued. Harold Anderson and Maxwell Graham were roommates at Princeton. They've maintained both business and personal ties for over 40 years. Nova Energy has substantial investments in Anderson development and vice versa. The implication hung in the air for a moment before Lily voiced it. Are you saying my marriage to Daniel was arranged? Some kind of corporate espionage? Not exactly. Walter pulled out a photograph showing younger versions of Harold Anderson and Maxwell Graham at what appeared to be a charity gala. We believe Daniel knew nothing about his father's connection to Nova. The marriage was genuine on his part, but his father likely encouraged the relationship once he realized who your grandfather was. The revelation sent a wave of nausea through Lily that had nothing to do with her pregnancy. Had everything in her life been manipulated? Was Daniel's love for her real, or just another calculated move in this corporate chess game? What about Daniel's accident? The question emerged as barely more than a whisper. Was that connected too? Before Walter could answer, the cabin's security system emitted a soft beep. He moved quickly to a monitor mounted beside the door. Vehicle approaching, not one of ours. Margaret was already in motion, gathering the quantum core and essential documents. Backup exit now. Walter led them to what appeared to be a pantry at the back of the cabin. Like Joseph's, this one concealed a hidden door, though far less sophisticated, a simple panel that slid aside to reveal a narrow passage. Old Bootlegger's Tunnel leads to a boathouse on the other side of the ridge. Go. I'll delay them. Walter, Margaret's protest died as headlights swept across the cabin windows. No time to argue. I'm too old to run through forests anymore. I'll meet you at the secondary location. He pressed a key into Margaret's hand. Lake Geneva, the Chen property. The name triggered a memory in Lily. Chen, as in Dr. Linda Chen? My grandfather mentioned to her in some of his notes. She's expecting you. Walter closed the hidden door behind them just as vehicle doors slammed outside the cabin. The bootlegger's tunnel was more primitive than Joseph's emergency exit. A narrow dirt passage shored up with ancient timbers, low enough that even Lily had to stoop. Their progress was painfully slow, each step measured against the risk of discovery. Above them, muffled voices and footsteps suggested Nova's agents had entered the cabin. After what felt like an eternity of hunched movement through suffocating darkness, the passage widened and angled upward. They emerged into a small boathouse, its weathered boards allowing glimpses of moonlight to filter through. A simple rowboat rested on the still waters of a narrow inlet connected to the main lake. Margaret moved with practiced efficiency, preparing the boat while Lily caught her breath. We'll row across to the far shore. I have a car hidden about a quarter mile from there. Walter said Lake Geneva. That's over 50 miles from here. Closer to 70 by the routes we'll need to take. Margaret helped Lily into the boat, mindful of her awkward balance. We can't risk main roads. Nova will have people watching. They pushed off from the boathouse dock, Margaret rowing with smooth, powerful strokes that belied her age. Behind them, a sudden flare of light illuminated the night sky. A fire starting at the cabin they'd just fled. Walter, Lily whispered, grief constricting her throat. He knows what he's doing. Margaret's voice remained steady, though her eyes reflected the distant flames. This isn't his first evasion. The fire is likely his doing, destroying evidence before Nova can collect it. By the time they reached the opposite shore, the cabin was fully engulfed, flames reaching toward the star-filled sky. They pulled the rowboat into dense reeds, concealing it from casual observation, then set off through another stretch of forest toward Margaret's hidden vehicle. The car turned out to be a weathered Jeep Cherokee, at least 20 years old but meticulously maintained. Margaret retrieved the keys from beneath a rock and quickly checked the vehicle for signs of tampering before motioning Lily inside. It's not comfortable, but it's anonymous. No electronic systems, no Jeeps, nothing they can track. She started the engine, its rumble surprisingly quiet for such an old vehicle. Try to rest if you can. We have a long drive ahead. Rest proved impossible as they wound along forgotten back roads, Margaret navigating from memory more than maps. Twice they spotted Nova SUVs on perpendicular roads, causing Margaret to abruptly change direction, extending their already circuitous route. Dawn was breaking when Margaret finally spoke again. There's something you should know before we reach Dr. Chen's property. She and your grandfather were more than colleagues. They were romantically involved. Engaged briefly before Joseph disappeared in '74. When he returned 3 years later, something had changed. He broke things off, said it was for her protection. Margaret's eyes remained fixed on the winding road ahead. Linda never stopped caring for him or believing in his work. As the sun climbed higher, they left forested hills behind, entering the lake country of southern Wisconsin. Lake Geneva appeared before them, its waters shimmering in morning light. Unlike the remote woodlands surrounding Joseph's property, this area featured sprawling estates and manicured lawns, the summer playground of Chicago's wealthy elite. Margaret turned onto a private drive marked only by a simple bronze plaque. Chen. The gravel path wound through immaculately landscaped grounds before revealing a modernist structure of glass and stone perched at the lake's edge. This is Dr. Chen's house? Lily couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. Linda comes from old money, very old Chinese-American banking family. Margaret parked the Jeep beside a modest electric car. She funded much of Joseph's research after he escaped Nova. Her family connections also provided protection, political and otherwise. They were met at the door by a woman whose elegance defied her advanced years. Dr. Linda Chen, now in her late 60s, moved with the grace of a dancer, her silver hair cut in a precise bob that framed intelligent eyes behind stylish glasses. Those eyes immediately found Lily, widening slightly. So, you're Joseph's granddaughter. Dr. Chen's voice carried the faintest trace of an accent. I see him in your eyes. The interior of that house matched its exterior, minimalist yet luxurious, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake and furniture that balanced form and function in perfect harmony. Dr. Chen led them to a sunroom where breakfast had been laid out on a glass table. Eat first, then we talk. Her tone allowed no argument. You're carrying a child. Your nutritional needs take priority over everything else. Over a meal of fresh fruit, whole grain bread, and protein-rich eggs, Dr. Chen studied Lily with unnerving intensity. You have his mind. I can see it working behind your eyes, analyzing, calculating, seeking patterns. Did you help him develop the quantum core? Lily asked between careful bites. I helped develop the initial theories before Maxwell stole him away. Dr. Chen's expression hardened momentarily. Before everything went wrong. When the meal was finished, Dr. Chen led them down a hallway lined with framed scientific papers and awards to a room that could have been transported directly from Joseph's underground laboratory. Advanced equipment hummed softly. Multiple monitors displayed data streams, and a central workstation held what appeared to be another quantum core prototype, though different in configuration from the one they'd brought. My continuation of Joseph's work, Dr. Chen explained, noticing Lily's surprise. We remained in contact after we ended our engagement. He shared his breakthrough discoveries with me, knowing I would preserve them if anything happened to him. Margaret placed their quantum core on a scanning platform. Nova found the lake house. They have the laboratory by now. But not this. Dr. Chen's finger tapped the cylinder gently. This is what matters. The original prototype, containing Joseph's complete breakthrough. The others were decoys, missing critical components. The scanner hummed to life, bathing the core in soft light as data streamed across nearby monitors. Dr. Chen studied the readings with the practiced eye of someone who'd devoted decades to this research. Remarkable! It's still functioning at optimal levels after all these years. Her fingers danced across a keyboard, bringing up comparative analyses. The quantum entanglement cascade remained stable. Joseph's genius was in creating a self-regulating system that doesn't degrade over time. Lily struggled to follow the technical details, her undergraduate engineering education insufficient for the advanced theoretical physics underlying the core's operation. My grandfather's notes mentioned a genetic lock preventing weaponization. How does that work? Chen's expression softened. Ah, yes, his final safeguard. She brought up a new display showing what appeared to be a DNA sequence alongside the core's operational parameters. Joseph integrated a biorecognition component into the core's control systems. It requires specific genetic markers found only in his bloodline to enable full functionality, which is why Nova wants me, and why they'll want your child even more. Dr. Chen's gaze dropped to Lily's pregnant belly. A next-generation descendant would provide an even stronger activation signature due to genetic recombination. Your child carries both Miller and Anderson DNA, a unique combination that could potentially unlock capabilities even Joseph couldn't predict. The revelation sent a chill through Lily's body despite the room's comfortable temperature. Her baby wasn't just her last connection to Daniel, but a key to power beyond imagination. Dr. Chen sensed her distress. There's a secure bedroom prepared for you. You should rest while Margaret and I analyze the core more thoroughly. I can't rest, not until I understand what we're dealing with. Lily straightened in her chair, one hand protectively covering her belly. What exactly can this technology do beyond clean energy production? What makes it worth killing for? A shadow passed over Dr. Chen's refined features. The quantum energy manipulation at the core's heart can do more than generate power. Theoretically, it could alter reality at the subatomic level. Energy, matter, even time, all could be manipulated with sufficient understanding of the underlying principles. That's not possible, Lily protested, her engineer's mind rebelling against concepts that sounded more like fantasy than science. 20 years ago, quantum computing was considered theoretically impossible. 10 years ago, neural interfaces were science fiction. Chen's smile held no humor. Joseph saw further than most. He recognized patterns in quantum fluctuations that others dismissed as background noise. Those patterns led him to discover what he called the morphic resonance field, a previously undetected energy layer that connects all matter. Margaret, who had been quietly monitoring security feeds, interrupted. Walter's calling. Dr. Chen activated a communications system integrated into the laboratory workstation. Walter Jenkins appeared on screen, his face smudged with soot but otherwise unharmed. Nova's increasing their search radius, he reported without preamble. They've set up roadblocks on all major routes between Madison and Chicago. I'm using back channels to reach you, but it's only a matter of time before they trace the connection. Were you able to extract the data from Joseph's secondary servers? Dr. Chen asked. Yes, it confirms our suspicions about Daniel Anderson's accident. It wasn't random. Walter's eyes met Lily's through the screen. Nova sabotaged his vehicle. Maxwell Graham personally ordered it when Daniel started asking questions about his father's connection to Nova Energy. He was getting too close to the truth. The revelation struck Lily with physical force, driving the air from her lungs. Daniel hadn't died because he was rushing home to her in a storm. He'd been murdered to prevent him from uncovering Nova's decades-long pursuit of her grandfather's technology. I have to go dark now, Walter continued. I'll make contact when I reach the safe house. 12 hours maximum. The connection terminated abruptly. Lily barely registered the conversation's end, her mind reeling from Walter's revelation. Daniel's death hadn't been her fault, as Victoria Anderson had so cruelly insisted. It had been a calculated execution ordered by his father's oldest friend. I need to see everything. Lily's voice emerged stronger than she expected. All of my grandfather's research, everything you've developed since, and everything Walter uncovered about Nova. No more filtering information to protect me. I need to understand what we're fighting. Dr. Chen studied her for a long moment before nodding. Joseph said you had his determination. Very well. She activated a holographic display in the center of the laboratory. This is everything. 40 years of research, development, and discovery, the complete quantum core project. For the next several hours, Lily immersed herself in her grandfather's life work, absorbing complex theories and technological applications that stretched the boundaries of known science. Dr. Chen provided clarification when needed, filling gaps in the research with her own considerable knowledge. The quantum core, Lily learned, operated on principles that merge quantum mechanics with theories about zero-point energy, the notion that empty space contained vast potential energy. Joseph had discovered a way to create a quantum bubble where normal physical laws were slightly altered, allowing energy to be harvested from what most physicists considered background radiation. Most revolutionary was the core's triple-layered quantum lattice, a three-dimensional nanostructure that could capture, store, and redistribute energy with near-perfect efficiency. But this same structure, if programmed differently, could extract energy instead, potentially weaponizing the technology in ways that could destabilize global power structures. The genetic lock was Joseph's final safeguard, Dr. Chen explained, bringing up detailed schematics. He integrated a biorecognition component that requires specific genetic markers found only in the Miller bloodline to access certain operational protocols. Without this recognition, the core functions only at its most basic level, clean energy production. But even that would revolutionize global energy markets, Lilly noted. Why didn't he release at least that aspect of the technology? Because Maxwell Graham wouldn't have stopped there. Margaret rejoined them, having completed a security sweep of the property. Nova would have reverse-engineered the basic technology until they found a way around the genetic lock. Joseph couldn't risk it. A sudden beeping from the security system interrupted their discussion. Dr. Chen moved swiftly to a monitoring station. Vehicle approaching the main gate, not one I recognize. The security feed showed a luxury sedan idling at the property's entrance. The driver's window lowered to reveal a face Lilly recognized instantly. Harold Anderson, her father-in-law. How did he find us? Margaret's hand moved to the small caliber pistol at her waist. More importantly, is he alone? Dr. Chen magnified the image, scanning for additional vehicles or personnel. No visible backup, but that means nothing with Nova's resources. Lilly studied her father-in-law's face on the monitor. The aristocratic features that usually projected cool authority now appeared haggard, with dark circles under his eyes and new lines etched around his mouth. Let him in, she decided abruptly. Lilly, we can't trust him, Margaret protested. He's been working with Maxwell Graham for decades, which means he might have information we need. Lilly's mind was already formulating a plan, and if Walter's right about Daniel asking questions before his death, Harold might not be fully aligned with Nova anymore. A man who loses his son looks at old allegiances differently. Dr. Chen considered this before nodding slowly. We'll bring him to the main house. The laboratory remains secured and hidden. She pressed a button that opened the distant gate. Margaret, take position with clear sightlines. If anyone besides Harold enters the property, we evacuate immediately. They returned to the sunroom, Lilly positioning herself with her back to the lake, allowing her full view of the entrance while providing a dramatic backdrop that might unsettle her visitor. Dr. Chen stood nearby, projecting the calm authority of someone in her own domain. Harold Anderson entered with uncharacteristic hesitancy, his normally impeccable appearance slightly disheveled, his eyes fixed on Lilly immediately, whining at the sight of her pregnant form silhouetted against the morning light reflecting off the lake. How did you find me? Lilly kept her voice neutral, betraying none of the turmoil churning inside her. Harold's shoulders sagged slightly. I had you followed from the day Victoria threw you out. Not by Nova, by my own security team. I wanted to ensure your safety. Why would you care about my safety when you've been allied with the people hunting me? The accusation hung in the air between them. Harold moved to a chair without waiting for invitation and sank into it heavily. Because you're carrying my grandchild. Because my son loved you. He passed a hand over his face, momentarily obscuring features that had hardened through decades of ruthless business dealings. And because I have reason to believe Maxwell was involved in Daniel's death. Dr. Chen remained expressionless. What evidence brought you to this conclusion, Mr. Anderson? 2 weeks ago, I accessed financial records showing an unusual payment from a Nova subsidiary to a vehicle maintenance company in Madison. The same company that serviced Daniel's car the day before his accident. Harold's gaze locked with Lilly's. I confronted Maxwell. He didn't deny it, said it was regrettable collateral damage in pursuit of a greater goal. The clinical description of his son's murder struck Lilly as entirely in character for Maxwell Graham based on what she'd learned. And now you've come to warn us? After decades of partnership with Nova? I've come because I want justice for my son. Harold's voice cracked slightly, the first genuine emotion Lilly had ever witnessed from him. And because whatever Maxwell is planning with Joseph Miller's technology, it's more dangerous than I realized. He's mobilized Nova's entire security division, former military specialists, intelligence operatives. This isn't just about clean energy anymore. A notification chimed softly from Dr. Chen's tablet. She checked it discreetly, then gave Lily a significant look. The property's perimeter sensors have detected movement in the eastern woodland, multiple heat signatures approaching. Harold's expression confirmed what they already suspected. I was followed. I took precautions, switched vehicles 3 times, but he spread his hands in a gesture of defeat. Maxwell has resources I can't match. How many? Margaret's voice came through an earpiece Dr. Chen wore. 8, possibly 10 operatives, full tactical gear, ETA 4 minutes. Dr. Chen moved with surprising speed for her age, activating security protocols from a hidden panel in the sunroom wall. Metal shutters began descending over the panoramic windows while lights dimmed to emergency levels. We need to reach the laboratory. She turned to Harold. Mr. Anderson, you have approximately 30 seconds to decide whose side you are on. After that, events will make the decision for you. Harold stood, his aristocratic bearing reasserting itself despite the circumstances. I'm on my family's side. Daniel is gone, but his child remains. I won't let Maxwell take that from me, too. A distant crack split the air, a sniper's shot hitting one of the security cameras. Dr. Chen ushered them toward a concealed panel in the sunroom's floor. This way, quickly. The hidden passage led down a spiral staircase to a corridor similar to the one beneath Joseph's lake house, though far more modern in construction. They moved swiftly, Harold keeping pace despite his age, until they reached a reinforced door that opened onto Dr. Chen's private laboratory. Margaret awaited them, the quantum core prototype already secured in a specialized transport case. Perimeter breach confirmed. They'll be inside the main house within 2 minutes. The evacuation tunnel? Dr. Chen moved to a workstation, fingers flying across keys as she initiated what appeared to be a data purge protocol. Ready, but they'll expect that. Nova would have studied the property schematics before approaching. Dr. Chen nodded grimly, which is why we'll use Joseph's method. Misdirection. She opened a cabinet revealing 3 identical transport cases to the one containing the core. Decoys, each emitting the same energy signature, the original. We split up, take different routes. The plan formed quickly. Margaret would take one decoy through the main evacuation tunnel leading to the boathouse. Dr. Chen would take another via a service road in an electric maintenance cart. Harold and Lily would carry the third decoy and the actual core in Harold's vehicle, which Nova would be least likely to intercept immediately, assuming he remained their inside man. The rendezvous point is the old Crawford Mining Company property near Elkhorn, Dr. Chen instructed. Joseph converted one of the abandoned mine shafts into a secondary laboratory years ago. Nova doesn't know about it. They separated at a junction in the tunnel system, Dr. Chen grasping Lily's hands briefly. Joseph believed in you, not just as his granddaughter, but as the mind that would complete his work. Her eyes, dark and penetrating, held Lily's for a moment longer. Find your own path forward. Harold led Lily through a section of tunnel that gradually sloped upward, eventually ending at what appeared to be a gardener's shed some distance from the main house. Through small windows, they could see Nova operatives surrounding the building, their tactical movements precise and practiced. My car is beyond that tree line, Harold whispered, pointing to a dense stand of oaks about 50 yards away. There's a service path the groundskeepers use. It connects to a private drive that exits the property on the western boundary. Lily's back spasmed with another pain, sharper than before. The stress and physical exertion were taking their toll. The baby shifted uneasily within her, as if sensing the danger surrounding them. They waited until a pair of Nova agents moved toward the house before slipping out of the shed, Harold supporting Lily's weight as they hurried toward the tree line, using landscaping features for cover. The transport case bumped awkwardly against Lily's leg, its weight insignificant compared to the actual core concealed in a specially designed compartment within her jacket, a last-minute switch suggested by Dr. Chen. They had almost reached the trees when a shout rang out behind them. Harold shoved Lily forward. Run! Don't stop! Lily stumbled into the underbrush as gunfire erupted behind her. Through gaps in the foliage, she saw Harold turn to face their pursuers, reaching inside his jacket. Whatever happened next was obscured as she pushed deeper into the woods, heart hammering against her ribs. The path Harold had mentioned appeared before her, a narrow dirt track barely visible among the trees. She followed it blindly, one hand clutching the core against her chest, the other still carrying the decoy case. Behind her, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter as she put distance between herself and the house. A sleek black Mercedes appeared around a bend in the path, its engine idling quietly. For a moment, Lily feared Nova had cut off their escape route at their bikes until the driver's door opened to reveal Walter Jenkins, his face grim but resolved. "Quickly," he urged, helping her into the passenger seat. "Nova's jamming communications. I lost contact with the others." "Harold," Lily began as Walter accelerated along the rough path. "I saw through the surveillance system. He engaged the Nova team. Bought you time." Walter's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, a brave end for a man with much to atone for. The knowledge that her father-in-law had sacrificed himself for her, for his grandchild, struck Lily with unexpected force. The complex man who had seemed so cold and calculating, Barnier had, in his final moments, chosen family over self-preservation. They emerged onto a paved road, the Mercedes handling the transition from rough track to smooth asphalt without slowing. Walter drove with the skill of someone familiar with evasion tactics, taking unpredictable turns and backtracking occasionally to ensure they weren't followed. "The mining property," Lily reminded him as another contraction gripped her body. "Dr. Chen said to rendezvous there." Walter glanced at her sharply. "You're in labor." "No, just stress contractions. I'm not due for weeks." But even as she said it, Lily felt a distinctive pop followed by warm fluid soaking through her pants. Her water had broken. Walter changed course immediately, heading for what appeared to be an industrial area on the outskirts of a small town. "We can't risk a hospital. Nova will have people monitoring all medical facilities in the region." He pulled up to a weathered warehouse bearing the faded logo of Crawford Mining Company. "Dr. Chen has medical training. She can help you if we reach the underground facility." The warehouse interior appeared abandoned, dust motes dancing in shafts of sunlight that penetrated broken windows. Walter led her to a freighted elevator concealed behind stacked crates, its mechanism surprisingly well-maintained given the decrepit surroundings. "Joseph converted this place in the 90s, Walter explained as they descended. "A backup if Nova ever discovered the Lake House laboratory." The elevator opened onto a space that echoed the laboratory beneath Joseph's house, though smaller and more focused on practical applications than theoretical research. Medical equipment occupied one section, alongside what appeared to be a fully equipped delivery room. "Joseph thought of everything," Lily whispered, a new contraction bending her double as they stepped into the facility. "He knew someday Nova would find him, knew you might need sanctuary when that happened." Walter helped her to an examination table. "I have basic medical training from my military days. I'll check how far along you are while we wait for the others." A distant rumble interrupted him, not thunder but an explosion somewhere above ground. Walter moved swiftly to a security console, activating exterior cameras that showed smoke rising from the warehouse entrance. "They found us, faster than I anticipated." He began gathering essential supplies, medical kit, water, emergency rations. "There's a secondary exit through the old mining tunnels. It's not ideal in your condition, but..." The elevator mechanism engaged suddenly, its indicator showing the car descending from ground level. Walter positioned himself between Lily and the elevator doors, a pistol appearing in his hand. "Get behind that equipment bank," he ordered. "If it's Nova, run for the tunnel entrance. Don't wait for me." Lily complied, awkwardly maneuvering her pregnant form behind a massive server rack. Through gaps in the equipment, she watched the elevator doors with breath held and core clutched tightly against her chest. The door slid open to reveal Dr. Chen, her elegant appearance now disheveled, a smear of blood visible on her sleeve. She stepped out cautiously, hands raised to show Walter she posed no threat. "Thank God." Walter lowered his weapon. "Margaret?" Dr. Chen's expression provided the answer before her words. "They intercepted her at the boathouse. She detonated her decoy rather than let them capture it. The explosion destroyed half the dock, and at least 3 Nova operatives with it." Lily emerged from behind the server rack, grief constricting her throat. Margaret Cooper, who had protected her grandfather's secrets for decades, had made the ultimate sacrifice to continue that mission. Another contraction, stronger than the previous ones, nearly brought Lily to her knees. Dr. Chen was at her side instantly, medical training overriding all other concerns. How far apart are the contractions? About 7 minutes. My water broke in the car. Dr. Chen guided her toward the medical section. First-time labor typically progresses slowly. We have time to secure the facility and prepare. A new explosion closer this time shook dust from the ceiling. Walter checked the security feeds again, his expression darkening. Nova found the elevator shaft. They're setting charges here to breach the doors. How long? Chen was already gathering medical supplies, her movements precise despite the chaos unfolding around them. Minutes, 5 at most. Not enough time for a proper evacuation. Dr. Chen made a swift decision. Walter, prepare the mining tunnel exit. We'll need to move as soon as the baby arrives. The baby isn't coming for hours, Lily protested through gritted teeth as another contraction seized her. Dr. Chen's experienced hands palpated Lily's abdomen, then checked her dilation with professional detachment. 4 centimeters already. Your body is progressing faster than typical for a first pregnancy. This baby is coming soon, ready or not. Another explosion rocked the facility, this one close enough to trip emergency systems. Red warning lights bathed the laboratory as sprinklers activated briefly before shutting down. They're through the outer doors, Walter reported grimly. Tunnels prepped, but it's a quarter-mile of rough terrain to the exit point. Dr. Chen positioned Lily on the delivery bed, hanging IV fluids and connecting monitoring equipment with practiced efficiency. This baby comes first, Nova second. The contractions accelerated with frightening speed, the pain intensifying until Lily could focus on nothing else. Through a haze of agony, she was dimly aware of Walter barricading the laboratory entrance, positioning equipment to create choke points in defensive positions. Nova's in the elevator shaft, he called, checking a tablet displaying security feeds. Rappelling down 2 minutes maximum. Chen remained focused on Lily, her professional calm unshaken by the imminent threat. You're at 7 centimeters, progressing rapidly. When I tell you to push, you push with everything you have. Understand? Lily nodded, another contraction stealing her ability to speak. The quantum core, still secured against her body, began emitting a higher-pitched hum, its blue light pulsing in rhythm with her contractions. The core, she gasped between waves of pain. It's reacting to something. Dr. Chen noticed the phenomenon with scientific curiosity despite the circumstances. Fascinating. The quantum field may be responding to your body's electrical impulses during labor. Joseph theorized such interactions were possible, but never had the opportunity to observe them. The sound of gunfire erupted from the direction of the elevator. Walter engaging the first Nova operatives to breach their sanctuary. Doctor. Chen positioned herself to block Lily's view, maintaining focus on the imminent birth. 9 centimeters, almost there. The firefight intensified, punctuated by Walter's shouts and the distinctive sound of flashbang grenades. Through it all, Dr. Chen remained steadfast, monitoring Lily and the baby with unwavering concentration. Now Lily, push! Lily bore down with all her remaining strength, a primal scream tearing from her throat as her body worked to bring new life into the world. The quantum core's pulsing light accelerated, bathing the medical bay in increasingly brilliant blue radiance. Again, push! The second effort brought searing pain followed by an indescribable release of pressure. A new sound filled the laboratory, the indignant wail of a newborn taking its first breath. A girl, Dr. Chen announced, quickly clearing the baby's airways and wrapping her in a sterile blanket. Perfectly formed and strong-lunged. Lily reached for her daughter with trembling arms, just as the laboratory doors burst inward. Nova operatives in full tactical gear poured through the breach, weapons trained on the small group. Behind them strode Maxwell Graham, CEO of Nova Energy. Tall, distinguished, with the bearing of someone accustomed to absolute authority, he surveyed the scene with clinical detachment. His gaze moved from Walter, now disarmed and bleeding from a shoulder wound, to Dr. Chen cradling the newborn, and finally to Lily on the delivery bed. Ms. Anderson, at last. His voice carried the cultivated tone of old money and expensive education. I've been searching for you since your grandfather died. And now I find you've brought me a bonus, the next generation of the Miller bloodline. The quantum core, still nestled against Lily's chest, suddenly flared with blinding intensity. Every electronic device in the laboratory surged simultaneously. Monitors exploding in showers of sparks, lights flaring and dying, weapons shorting out in Nova operatives' hands. In the chaos, Dr. Chen thrust the newborn into Lily's arms and shielded them both with her body. Maxwell Graham staggered backward, momentarily blinded by the core's discharge. The mining tunnel, Dr. Chen urged Walter, who had used the distraction to reclaim his weapon. Now, what happened next unfolded in fragmented images through Lily's exhaustion-blurred vision. Walter providing covering fire as Dr. Chen helped her from the bed, the strange weightlessness of shock and blood loss, the warm bundle of her daughter clutched against her chest, and the core still pulsing with otherworldly light, somehow responding to the presence of the newborn. They had almost reached the tunnel entrance when Maxwell recovered enough to shout orders to his men. A hail of bullets followed them into the darkness, one striking Walter in the leg, another grazing Dr. Chen's arm. Despite their injuries, they pushed forward, the tunnel's close walls providing some protection from direct fire. "Keep moving," Walter urged, limping heavily but still supporting Lily's weight. "The tunnel branches ahead. Split up, create confusion." "We stay together," Dr. Chen countered, pressing a hand to her bleeding arm. "Lily can't manage alone with the baby, and you can barely walk." The argument became moot as a new explosion collapsed a section of tunnel behind them, temporarily blocking Nova's pursuit, but also sending a cloud of dust and debris rolling over them. Lily curled protectively around her newborn daughter, shielding the tiny face from the choking dust. When the air cleared enough to see, they found themselves cut off from both their pursuers and the planned exit route. The tunnel ahead branched into 3 separate passages, all disappearing into darkness beyond the range of their emergency lights. "Which way?" Lily coughed, her body trembling with exertion and post-birth shock. Before either of her companions could answer, the quantum core flared again, its blue light seemingly drawn toward the leftmost tunnel like iron to a magnet. "The core is responding to something," Chen observed, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding their desperate situation. "Perhaps another prototype Joseph hidden here, or some natural phenomenon interacting with the quantum field?" "Questions for later," Walter grimaced, tightening a makeshift bandage around his leg. "Right now, that light is our best guide." They followed the core's pull, moving deeper into the abandoned mine system. The passage narrowed in places, forcing them to navigate single file through claustrophobic stretches where the ceiling dropped low enough to brush against their heads. Lily's strength was failing rapidly. Blood loss from the birth combined with exhaustion and stress pushed her toward collapse. Only the precious weight of her daughter in her arms kept her moving forward, one agonizing step after another. "Almost there," Walter encouraged from behind, though none of them knew what there might be. "Just a little further." The tunnel abruptly widened into a natural cavern, its walls glittering with mineral deposits that caught and reflected the core's blue light. At the center stood something none of them expected. A circular platform of clearly artificial construction, its surface inscribed with intricate patterns reminiscent of the circuitry within the quantum core. "Joseph's work," Chen whispered, recognition dawning in her eyes. This must be the testing site he mentioned in his later notes, the place he validated his breakthrough. The core's pulsing intensified as they approached the platform, its light now so bright it cast their shadows in sharp relief against the cavern walls. The newborn, remarkably quiet since the escape began, chose this moment to wail, a sound that echoed through the cavern like a summoning. Distant shouts confirmed Nova's pursuit had resumed. They had minutes at most before Grandma's forces would locate them. "Get on the platform," Dr. Chen urged, helping Lily navigate the short step up. "Joseph built this for a purpose. The core's reaction suggests it's still functional." Walter took position at the cavern entrance, pistol ready for a last stand. "Whatever you're planning, do it quickly." Dr. Chen examined the platform's edge, fingers tracing inscriptions barely visible beneath years of dust. "It's a testing apparatus for quantum field manipulation." Joseph theorized that with sufficient energy, the field could be used to transport matter instantaneously between linked points. A teleportation device? Lily's scientific mind rebelled against the concept despite everything she'd witnessed. Not exactly. More like a quantum tunneling mechanism, creating a temporary bridge between locations where Joseph had established field anchors. Dr. Chen located what appeared to be a control panel embedded in the platform's base. If I'm right, there should be a corresponding platform at another of his facilities. Somewhere Nova hasn't discovered yet. The sounds of pursuit grew louder. Flashlight beams became visible in the tunnel beyond Walter's position. "They're here," he called softly, taking careful aim at the approaching lights. Dr. Chen worked feverishly at the control panel, clearing decades of dust from its surface. "The power source is depleted. It needs an active quantum field to initiate the tunneling effect." Lily looked down at the core still clutched against her chest, then at her newborn daughter. The baby's cries had subsided to whimpers. Her tiny face turned instinctively toward the core's light as if drawn to its energy. "Use this." Lily extended the core to Dr. Chen. "Will it be enough?" Theoretically, yes, but Joseph designed the platform to work with a much larger system. This portable version might not have sufficient capacity to transport all of us. The first exchange of gunfire punctuated her words, Walter returning fire as Nova operatives appeared at the tunnel entrance. A bullet ricocheted off the cavern wall near Lily's head, showering her with stone fragments. "Do it," she urged, cradling her daughter closer. "Even if it only takes two of us. The baby must survive." Dr. Chen hesitated for just a moment, maternal instinct warring with scientific duty, before nodding once. She placed the core into a circular recession in the control panel. The fit was perfect, as if Joseph had designed the portable version specifically to interface with this larger system. The platform hummed to life, blue light spreading from the core to fill the circuit-like inscriptions etched into its surface. The energy pulsed outward in concentric rings, building in intensity until standing within it felt like being immersed in static electricity. "It's working." Dr. Chen's voice held wonder despite the dire circumstances. "The quantum tunneling effect is initiating, but the power curve is unstable. We have seconds at most before system failure." Another bullet struck dangerously close, this one hitting the platform itself and sending up sparks where it struck the energized surface. Walter returned fire, his weapons report deafening in the enclosed space. "Go," he shouted over his shoulder, never taking his eyes from the tunnel entrance. "I'll hold them as long as I can." The energy field surrounding the platform intensified, blue light coalescing into a shimmering dome that distorted vision like heat waves rising from summer pavement. Through this wavering curtain, Lily saw Maxwell Graham himself step into the cavern, flanked by black-clad operatives. "Stop them!" His command cut through the chaos, authoritative even in defeat. "The core, don't let it activate." Too late. The quantum field reached critical threshold, reality itself seeming to bend around the platform. Lily's last glimpse before the world dissolved into blue light was Walter turning to face her, a rare smile transforming his weathered features. "Your grandfather would be proud." Then everything, the cavern, the gunfire, Maxwell Graham's furious shout, vanished in a flash of impossible brilliance. Lily felt herself stretched and compressed simultaneously, her very atoms seeming to separate and rejoin in the space between heartbeats. When solid reality reassembled around her, she found herself standing on an identical platform in a space she didn't recognize, some kind of bunker or fallout shelter, its concrete walls lined with outdated technology and faded civil defense posters. Dr. Chen materialized beside her a moment later, looking equally disoriented. The quantum core, now dark and dormant, ejected from the control panel with a soft click. The transportation had depleted its energy entirely. "We made it," Dr. Chen whispered, steadying herself against the platform's edge. Joseph's quantum tunneling worked. Lily looked down at the miraculous bundle, still clutched in her arms. Her daughter slept peacefully, apparently unaffected by their impossible journey. In that moment of quiet relief, Lily made a decision that would shape not only their futures, but potentially the world's. She would complete her grandfather's work, protect his legacy, and ensure that the quantum core's power would be used as Joseph intended, to help humanity, not control it. Nova might have won this battle, capturing Walter in the laboratory, but the war for the future of energy was far from over. The baby stirred in her arms, tiny fingers flexing as if reaching for something just beyond sight. Lily stroked her daughter's cheek gently. "Welcome to the world, Sophia," she whispered. "You are your grandfather's greatest legacy." The quantum transportation left Lily disoriented, her body struggling to acclimate to its sudden atomic reorganization. Dr. Chen stumbled beside her, catching herself against a concrete wall as her legs threatened to buckle. The bunker surrounding them hummed with dormant systems gradually awakening to their presence, emergency lighting flickering on in sequence to reveal a space that time had forgotten. Cold War-era fallout shelter, Dr. Chen observed, her scientific mind already cataloging details despite their precarious situation. Joseph modified it extensively. "See the power conduits? Modern technology grafted onto 1960s infrastructure." Sophia squirmed against Lily's chest, tiny face scrunching with hunger. The miracle of her existence, born during a firefight, transported through quantum space, struck Lily with such force that she momentarily forgot the danger they'd escaped and the friends they'd lost. "We need to secure the perimeter." Dr. Chen moved toward what appeared to be a control console, fingers flying across a keyboard that seemed incongruously modern against the bunker's aging architecture. Joseph would have built in defensive systems, ways to monitor the outside world without revealing our presence. Monitors flared to life around the room, displaying camera feeds of a desolate landscape Lily didn't recognize. Scrubland dotted with yucca and mesquite, mountains shimmering in the distance under merciless sun. The stark beauty of the American Southwest, hundreds of miles from the Wisconsin laboratory they'd fled. "Arizona, perhaps," Dr. Chen noted, checking coordinates on a digital display. "Or New Mexico, somewhere remote, far from Nova's immediate reach." Lily sank onto a nearby chair, the adrenaline that had sustained her finally ebbing to reveal the full extent of her exhaustion. Her body, pushed beyond normal human endurance through labor, firefight, and quantum displacement, trembled with fatigue. Blood loss had left her lightheaded, vision swimming at the edges. "I need to lie down," she whispered. Sophia clutched protectively against her heart. Dr. Chen turned from the monitors, medical training immediately superseding scientific curiosity. She helped Lily to a small adjoining room equipped with military-style cots and rudimentary medical supplies. "Rest. You've lost considerable blood. I'll see what supplies Joseph stored here." Left alone with her newborn daughter, Lily allowed tears to flow freely for the first time since her ordeal began. Tears for Walter, who'd sacrificed himself to cover their escape. For Margaret, who detonated her decoy rather than surrender to Nova. For Harold, whose final redemptive act had bought her precious minutes to reach the mine tunnels. Sophia's tiny fingers curled around Lily's thumb, impossibly small yet perfectly formed. The weight of responsibility pressed down upon Lily's shoulders, not just for this miraculous new life, but for the legacy her grandfather had entrusted to her. The quantum core secrets, the potential to transform humanity's relationship with energy, the power that Maxwell Graham would kill to possess. "We're alone now," Lily whispered to her daughter, stroking the wisp of dark hair crowning her head. "But I promise I will keep you safe. I will finish what Joseph started. For everyone we've lost." Dr. Chen returned with a first aid kit and what appeared to be military rations. Joseph prepared this place for long-term occupancy, water recycling system, food stores, medical supplies, even children's formula. She held up a sealed container with a production date less than a year old. He updated the supplies regularly, as if he knew someday we'd need this sanctuary. The formula allowed Lily to feed Sophia while Dr. Chen treated her post-birth injuries with the efficiency of someone accustomed to field medicine. Neither woman spoke of what they'd left behind. Walter fighting a hopeless last stand, the quantum core depleted of energy, Nova inevitably discovering this quantum transportation technology that should have remained theoretical for decades. "We should rest while we can," Dr. Chen advised, checking Sophia's vital signs with gentle hands. "Nova will be analyzing the quantum signature from our transportation. They don't know where we've gone, but Maxwell won't stop searching. The child represents the purest genetic key to unlocking the core's full potential." Sleep claimed Lily almost instantly, her body surrendering to exhaustion despite the cacophony of worries in her mind. Her dreams were fragmented, disjointed. Daniel smiling on their wedding day, Joseph's hands guiding hers as they built circuit boards during childhood summers, Maxwell Graham's cold eyes watching her daughter with calculated interest. She woke to Sophia's hungry cries and the disorienting realization that 12 hours had passed. Dr. Chen sat at the bunker's central console, monitoring communication channels with the focus of a military strategist. Nova's gone public with a story about a laboratory accident, she reported without turning. They're claiming a prototype clean energy system malfunctioned during testing, causing significant damage to their Lake Geneva facility. No mention of us, the mine collapse, or Walter. Lily changed and fed Sophia with mechanical efficiency, her mind racing through possible next steps. They're covering their tracks, preparing a narrative that doesn't involve kidnapping and attempted murder. Maxwell's specialty, he's been erasing evidence for decades. Dr. Chen brought up a news feed on one of the monitors. The Andersons have made a public statement as well. Victoria Anderson appeared on screen, impeccably groomed despite purported grief, Harold conspicuously absent. Her practice statement expressed shock at the tragic accident that had claimed her daughter-in-law's life, and the Anderson family's commitment to honoring Lily's memory through charitable works. They think I'm dead. Lily's voice emerged flat, emotionless, though her mind reeled at the implications. Or they want the world to think so. It buys us time, Dr. Chen observed pragmatically. As long as Maxwell believes you perished in the mine collapse, he won't be looking for you specifically. A new notification flashed across the monitor. Breaking news. The camera cut to footage of emergency vehicles surrounding what appeared to be a collapsed section of the old Crawford Mining Company. A reporter's voice provided solemn narration as body bags were carried from the site. 3 bodies recovered from the illegal laboratory facility hidden beneath the abandoned mine. Authorities are working to identify the victims of what appears to be a catastrophic structural failure. Lily's blood ran cold. Walter? Dr. Chen's expression hardened. And whoever else Nova killed to complete their cover story. Maxwell's cleaning house, eliminating anyone who might contradict their version of events. The reality of their situation crystallized with brutal clarity. Legally dead, separated from allies and resources, hunted by one of the most powerful corporations in America. Lily and her newborn daughter existed now in a shadow realm between worlds. We need to fight back, Lily decided, steel entering her voice. Not just hide. Joseph's research, the quantum core technology, it was meant to help humanity, not become a corporate weapon. We need to finish what he started. Dr. Chen studied her with newfound respect. Joseph said you had his determination. I see it now. She gestured toward a reinforced door at the back of the bunker. Perhaps it's time you saw what else he left for us. The door required both retinal and palm scans from Lily, the security system recognizing her genetic signature with a soft chime of acceptance. Beyond lay Joseph Miller's final sanctuary, a laboratory that made the Lake Geneva facility seem primitive by comparison. Holographic displays dominated the central workspace, currently dormant but promising capability beyond anything Lily had encountered. Specialized equipment lined the walls, some recognizable from her engineering background, others so advanced their purpose remained enigmatic. His life's work, Dr. Chen explained, voice hushed with reverence. Not just the quantum core, but every breakthrough, every theoretical leap he made after escaping Nova. He didn't trust anyone with the complete picture, not even me. He compartmentalized his research across multiple locations, ensuring no single breach could compromise everything. At the laboratory's heart stood an apparatus identical to the one they'd used for quantum transportation, the same circular platform with its circuit-like inscriptions, though this version appeared newer, more refined. Beside it sat a charging station, currently empty, but clearly designed to house the depleted quantum core. We have the knowledge, Lily observed, surveying the technological wonderland her grandfather had created. We have the facility. What we lack is a functioning core. Without it, we're stranded here, unable to access Joseph's other research sites or implement his breakthroughs on a meaningful scale. Dr. Chen moved to a workstation and activated a holographic display showing the core's schematics in meticulous detail. We could build another. Joseph left complete manufacturing specifications. The materials would be challenging to acquire without alerting Nova, but not impossible. How long? Months at minimum. Some components require specialized fabrication facilities we don't have access to. Lily's gaze drifted to Sophia, sleeping peacefully in a makeshift bassinet they'd created from storage containers. We don't have months. Nova is consolidating their narrative now, erasing evidence of their crimes. The longer we wait, the stronger their position becomes. She approached her daughter, gently brushing a finger against the impossibly soft cheek. As she did, the quantum residue still clinging to her skin from their transportation sparked visibly, a microscopic flash of blue energy responding to Sophia's proximity. Dr. Chen noticed immediately, scientific curiosity overriding all other concerns. Did you see that? The quantum field particles still present in your system reacted to contact with Sophia. The observation triggered a memory. The original core's reaction during Sophia's birth, its blue light pulsing in sync with Lily's contractions, intensifying at the moment of delivery. The core responded to her too in the mind. It's like it recognized her somehow. Dr. Chen's eyes widened with sudden understanding. Of course, the genetic lock Joseph integrated into the core's systems, it wouldn't just recognize DNA sequences. It would respond more strongly to newer, more complex combinations of those sequences. You mean Sophia's mixed heritage? Miller and Anderson DNA combined? More than that, each generation introduces genetic recombination, mutations, adaptations. Sophia represents an evolution of the baseline Joseph used to create the lock. Not just a key that fits, but a key that improves the mechanism itself. The implications cascaded through Lily's mind, connections forming at lightning speed. That's why the core's energy surged when she was born. It wasn't just responding to her presence, it was amplifying in response to her genetic signature. Dr. Chen was already moving toward another workstation, fingers flying across interfaces with renewed purpose. If we're right, Sophia's genetic material could potentially reactivate the depleted core. Not at full capacity, perhaps, but enough to establish a quantum link with Joseph's other research sites. A plan began forming in Lily's mind, audacious, desperate, but potentially their only path forward. If we can reactivate the core and access Joseph's other facilities, we might find the resources to build a full-scale replacement, or better yet, documentation of his completed research that we could release publicly beyond Nova's ability to suppress. You're suggesting we publish Joseph's breakthroughs? Make the quantum core technology available to everyone? Dr. Chen's expression reflected both hope and concern. Maxwell would move heaven and earth to prevent that, which is precisely why it's our most effective weapon. Nova's power comes from controlling access to revolutionary technology. If that knowledge becomes public domain, their advantage evaporates. Lily moved to Sophia's side, resolve hardening within her. My grandfather wanted this technology to help humanity, not serve corporate interests. It's time we honored his vision. For 3 days, they worked without rest. Dr. Chen's decades of quantum physics expertise combining with Lily's engineering ingenuity to create a specialized interface between the depleted core and Sophia's genetic material. They required only the most minute sample, a single drop of blood carefully collected while the newborn slept. But the technical challenges of creating a biological quantum bridge tested the limits of even Joseph's advanced laboratory. On the 4th day, as Lily made final adjustments to the interface circuitry, the bunker's perimeter alarms activated with shrill insistence. Dr. Chen rushed to the security console, her usual composure fracturing at the sight on the monitors. Nova found us, she reported grimly. 3 vehicles approaching from the north. Military-grade equipment, ground-penetrating radar, thermal imaging. Lily joined her at the console, disbelief warring with rising panic. How the quantum transportation should have been untraceable, unless they captured Walter. And the possibility hung between them, unspoken until now. If they forced him to reveal Joseph's other research locations. The vehicles on the monitor halted approximately half a mile from the bunker's hidden entrance, disgorging black-clad figures who moved with the coordinated precision of Special Forces operators. At their center stood a figure Lily recognized even at this distance. Maxwell Graham, impeccable in a light suit despite the desert heat. They'll breach the outer perimeter within 20 minutes. Dr. Chen's assessment came with military precision. The main entrance might hold another 10, depending on what explosives they brought. 30 minutes before Nova would reach them. 30 minutes to activate a device they'd estimated would require hours of careful calibration. Lily made the only decision possible under the circumstances. We accelerate the timeline, skip the safety protocols, direct neural interface between the core and Sophia's genetic sample. Dr. Chen paled. The risks are less than the certainty of what happens if Nova captures us. Lily was already moving toward the laboratory, mind racing through the necessary modifications. Help me or don't, but I'm proceeding. Together they worked with frantic efficiency, bypassing safeguards Joseph had integrated specifically to prevent rushed implementation. On the security monitors, Nova's team methodically deployed sensor equipment around the bunker perimeter, mapping its subterranean architecture in preparation for surgical entry. They know exactly where we are, Dr. Chen noted grimly as she made final adjustments to the biological interface. Not just the general location. They have schematics of this facility. Lily didn't waste breath responding, her focus entirely on the delicate process of integrating Sophia's genetic material into the quantum acceleration chamber. The depleted core sat at the center of an increasingly complex web of equipment, Joseph's original design augmented by their desperate modifications. The first explosion rocked the bunker 18 minutes later, dust sifting from ceiling panels as Nova breached the outer security door. Proximity alarms wailed and counterpointed to Sophia's frightened cries. The newborn sensing the mounting tension despite Lily's attempts to maintain calm. Ready? Lily announced, connecting the final circuit. The jerry-rigged system hummed to life, power indicators climbing steadily toward operational threshold. Initiate quantum amplification on my mark. Dr. Chen positioned herself at the activation console, fingers poised above the command sequence. If this works, where do we go? We haven't programmed destination coordinates. A question Lily had already resolved during sleepless hours between feeding Sophia and building their escape route. The original core contained a security protocol, emergency coordinates programmed by Joseph, quantum displacement to a location known only to him. You're betting our lives on a destination you don't know? I'm betting on my grandfather's foresight. Lily checked the power readings one last time. He anticipated everything else. He wouldn't have left this to chance. A second explosion, closer this time, shook equipment from shelves and sent diagnostic displays flickering. Nova had breached the secondary containment area, now just one security door from the main laboratory. Mark! Lily shouted over the cacophony of alarms. Dr. Chen activated the sequence, power surging through their improvised system into the depleted core. For one heart-stopping moment, nothing happened, the crystal structure remaining dark, unresponsive to their desperate efforts. Then, responding to some catalyst they hadn't anticipated, Sophia began to glow with subtle blue luminescence. The same energy signature as the core, quantum particles somehow activated within her developing cellular structure. The phenomenon spread outward, connecting with the core in a visible arc of energy that bridged the gap between infant and technology. The core flared to life, its previously dormant crystal structure pulsing with renewed purpose. Power readings spiked beyond their monitoring equipment's capability to measure, quantum fluctuations distorting local spacetime in ways that made Lily's vision swim with disorientation. It's working! Chen's voice barely penetrated Lily's consciousness as the quantum field began forming around them. The genetic sample is amplifying the remaining energy, creating a cascading quantum reaction. The laboratory door buckled inward, metal warping under focused explosive force. Through the widening breach, Lily glimpsed Nova operatives in tactical gear, Maxwell Graham's tall figure directing their assault from protected position. The quantum field surrounding the platform intensified, reality wavering like heat mirages as spacetime prepared for disruption. Lily clutched Sophia tightly, the infant still glowing with ethereal blue light, somehow integral to the transportation process they'd initiated. Maxwell Graham stepped through the breached doorway, his aristocratic features contorted with thwarted ambition. Stop! The command emerged with such authority that several of his own operatives hesitated, uncertain. The child. We need her intact. Too late. The quantum displacement reached critical threshold, the world dissolving around them into formless energy. The last thing Lily saw before transportation was Maxwell's expression, not rage or frustration, but calculating determination. The face of a man who might have lost this battle but remained committed to winning the war. The quantum displacement lasted subjectively longer than their first transportation, a stretching of consciousness through space-time that left Lily momentarily uncertain if she remained fully human. When reality reassembled around them, they stood not on another transportation platform, but in what appeared to be a modern apartment overlooking a city Lily immediately recognized from its distinctive skyline. Chicago. They'd traveled hundreds of miles instantaneously, from remote desert to urban center. Dr. Chen stumbled beside her, equally disoriented by the transportation and their unexpected destination. This makes no strategic sense. Why would Joseph program emergency coordinates in a major metropolitan area? We're more exposed here, more vulnerable. Lily surveyed the apartment, luxuriously appointed but with an unlived-in quality suggesting it existed primarily as a safe house rather than residence. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of Lake Michigan and the city skyline, while security features subtly integrated into the design spoke to paranoid levels of privacy protection. Hidden in plain sight, Lily realized, moving toward what appeared to be the apartment's main security console. Nova would expect us to remain isolated, off-grid, not to seek refuge in a city where they maintain corporate offices. The console activated at her touch, biometric scanners confirming her identity before granting access to the apartment's systems. A hidden panel slid aside to reveal a safe containing documentation, legal identities, financial accounts, everything needed to establish new lives beyond Nova's reach. Joseph prepared fallback positions we never knew about, Dr. Chen examined the documentation with increasing amazement. Corporate entities, shell companies, trust funds. There's enough here to operate independently for years without attracting attention. Lily found a sealed envelope addressed to her in her grandfather's distinctive handwriting. Inside lay a single key and a handwritten note. If you're reading this, the worst has happened. The basement contains everything you need to finish what I started. Trust only Chen and Jenkins. Maxwell will never stop searching. The choice I couldn't make now falls to you. The basement key opened a concealed door behind what had appeared to be a solid wall panel, revealing a staircase descending to a space that occupied the entire subfloor of the building. Unlike the desert bunker with its Cold War aesthetic, this facility featured cutting-edge technology integrated so seamlessly into the environment that it nearly disappeared, a laboratory designed for long-term research without attracting outside attention. At its center stood a full-scale quantum core, not the portable prototype they'd depleted, but the culmination of Joseph's research. Larger, more complex, humming with potential even in its dormant state. He built a complete version, Dr. Chen whispered, circling the device with scientific reverence. Fully functional, ready for implementation. Her fingers traced control interfaces with increasing excitement. This isn't just a prototype. It's a production model designed for real-world application. Lily found herself drawn to a different section of the laboratory, a communications center with broadcasting capabilities far beyond what seemed reasonable for private research. Multiple redundant systems, military-grade encryption, connection protocols for every major news organization and research institution worldwide. He wasn't just developing the technology, she realized, understanding flooding through her. He was preparing to release it, to make it public before Nova could weaponize it. Dr. Chen joined her, examining the sophisticated communications array. This would allow simultaneous worldwide distribution of research data, too widespread for even Nova to suppress. That's our path forward. Lily's decision crystallized with sudden clarity. We don't just hide. We don't just serve it them. We complete Joseph's mission. We give his breakthrough to humanity beyond anyone's ability to control or weaponize. The plan took shape over subsequent days, Dr. Chen working to optimize the full-scale core while Lily prepared the research documentation for public release. They lived in a strange limbo, physically present in Chicago's bustling center, yet existing outside normal society, their legal identities erased by Nova's cover story. Through secure channels Joseph had established years before, they monitored Nova's activities. The corporation had maintained its laboratory accident narrative, leveraging media connections to suppress questions about inconsistencies. Maxwell Graham himself led a public relations campaign positioning Nova as pioneers in clean energy research, martyrs who had sacrificed their own personnel in pursuit of environmental solutions. 2 weeks after their arrival in Chicago, Lilly's secure monitoring system detected unusual activity in Nova's financial networks. Massive resource reallocation, research personnel being transferred to a previously inactive facility in Nevada desert. They're accelerating their quantum core development program, Dr. Chen confirmed after analyzing the intercepted data. Maxwell must have recovered enough from the mine laboratory to reconstruct Joseph's basic principles. They'll have a working prototype within months. We move up our timeline, Lilly decided, Sophia sleeping peacefully in a carrier against her chest. The worldwide release happens in 3 days. Dr. Chen's expression reflected concern mingled with resolve. Nova will respond with everything they have. Legal challenges, media suppression, possibly direct action. Once we release Joseph's research, we become the most hunted people on the planet. Then we need leverage, insurance. Lily's mind raced through possibilities before settling on their most powerful option. The Andersons. Victoria has been managing the public narrative of my death, but Harold's conspicuously absent from all statements. I need to know if he survived the attack at Dr. Chen's property. Accessing Anderson family communications required bypassing security that would have deterred most hackers. But Joseph's systems proved equal to the challenge. Within hours, Lily had her answer. Harold Anderson remained in intensive care at a private medical facility outside Madison, his condition listed as critical but stable. He survived, Lily confirmed, studying the medical reports with mixed emotions. The man who had orchestrated her marriage to gain access to Joseph's technology, yet ultimately risked his life to protect her and Sophia. And he's being kept isolated from everyone, including Victoria. Nova doesn't want him talking. What are you thinking? Dr. Chen recognized the calculating look that had overtaken Lily's features. I'm thinking Harold Anderson has outlived his usefulness to Maxwell Graham, a loose end that will be tied off once he's no longer needed for the cover story. Lily began formulating a new component to their plan, and I'm thinking he might prefer alliance with his granddaughter over death at his oldest friend's hands. The rescue operation required precision timing and resources Lily wouldn't have believed available to them just weeks earlier. Joseph's preparations extended beyond technology and finances to include connections with private security contractors who operated outside conventional channels. Former Special Forces operators who asked no questions when engaged through the proper protocols. While Dr. Chen finalized preparations for the worldwide research release, Lily coordinated Harold's extraction from the private medical facility. The operation executed with clockwork precision, security systems disabled, medical staff diverted, and Harold Anderson removed via helicopter before Nova's surveillance team recognized the breach. They reunited in the Chicago apartment's secure medical room, Harold barely conscious but responding to treatment. His eyes widened with disbelief when Lily entered his field of vision, Sophia cradled in her arms. You survived. His voice emerged as barely a whisper, weakened by injuries and weeks of intensive care. I saw the mine collapse. Maxwell says many things, none of them true. Lily adjusted Sophia so Harold could see his granddaughter properly for the first time. I thought you died covering our escape from the Chen property. Harold's gaze fixed on Sophia, something like wonder crossing his pain-etched features. She has Daniel's eyes. And your stubbornness, apparently. She refuses to sleep unless she's moving. The moment of connection passed as Lily refocused on their precarious situation. Nova thinks you're safely contained, unable to contradict their narrative about what happened at the mine. They don't know you're here, which temporarily gives us an advantage. What do you want from me? The question came without rancor, a simple acknowledgement of transactional reality. Information, access codes, inside knowledge of Nova's security protocols, and when the time comes, public testimony about Maxwell's crimes, including Daniel's murder. Harold closed his eyes briefly, decades of corporate maneuvering visibly weighing against newfound family loyalty. When he looked at Lily again, something had shifted in his expression. Maxwell has controlled the narrative for too long. It's time someone held him accountable. The exchange of information lasted hours, Harold providing access to Nova's most sensitive systems, while Lily outlined their plan to release Joseph's research globally. By the time Dr. Chen joined them, they had mapped Nova's likely countermeasures and developed contingencies for each scenario. The broadcast system is ready, Dr. Chen reported, nodding respectfully to Harold despite their complicated history. Full spectrum distribution across all channels Joseph established. Once we initiate, Nova won't be able to contain the information. They'll try another angle, Harold warned, his insider's perspective invaluable despite his weakened condition. Maxwell will claim the research is Nova intellectual property, developed while Joseph was under contract. He'll unleash legal challenges that could take years to resolve, which is why we're not just releasing research data. Lily activated a holographic display showing the final component of their plan. We're simultaneously releasing evidence of Nova's crimes, including Maxwell's order to sabotage Daniel's vehicle, the attack on Dr. Chen's property, and the execution staged to support their cover story. Harold studied the evidence compilation with growing appreciation for its thoroughness. Where did you get all this? Joseph built monitoring systems into Nova's network architecture during his time there, backdoors they never discovered. He collected evidence for decades, waiting for the right moment to use it. Lily gestured toward another data package. And this comes from you, internal communications, financial transfers, everything needed to prove Maxwell's direct involvement on us in criminal activity. You copied my secure files. Not a question, but an observation tinged with reluctant admiration. Joseph taught me that information is the most valuable currency in existence. I've been investing wisely. The global release was scheduled for 9 a.m. Eastern Time, chosen to maximize media coverage across international time zones while catching Nova during regular business hours. As 0 hour approached, Lily positioned herself at the primary broadcast console, Dr. Chen monitoring global systems to ensure maximum distribution. 3 minutes to information release, dog, Chen announced, her usually calm voice tight with anticipation. Harold, now strong enough to sit upright in a medical chair, joined them for the historic moment. Maxwell will know immediately it was you. The specificity of the evidence, the access to Nova's systems, it carries your signature. I'm counting on it. Lily made final adjustments to the broadcast parameters. This isn't just about releasing information. It's about forcing Maxwell into the open, making him react emotionally rather than strategically. The console chimed softly, indicating final countdown sequence. 1 minute until Joseph Miller's life work, and the evidence of crimes committed to possess it, would become public knowledge beyond anyone's ability to suppress. The apartment's security system chose that moment to emit a shrill warning. Dr. Chen moved swiftly to the monitoring station, expression darkening as she assessed the threat. Nova tactical team entering the building. Full breach protocol. They found us. How? Harold demanded, years of corporate paranoia surfacing through his physical weakness. I didn't access any monitored channels. We maintained communication discipline. The answer arrived with brutal clarity as the apartment's main entrance exploded inward, tactical operatives flowing through the breach with practiced efficiency. Behind them strode Maxwell Graham, impeccably dressed as always, his expression one of satisfied victory. Quantum energy signatures, he explained conversationally, as if they were meeting at a corporate function rather than through violent home invasion. The transportation technology leaves distinctive radiation patterns. Once we knew what to look for, tracking you was simply a matter of deploying the right sensors across major population centers. Lily positioned herself between the intruders and the broadcast console, acutely aware that only seconds remained before the automated system would release Joseph's research to the world. If she could delay Maxwell just long enough, "You've lost, Maxwell." She injected confidence into her voice despite their desperate situation. In 30 seconds, Joseph's complete research becomes public domain. The quantum transportation technology, the energy generation breakthroughs, everything Nova has killed to control, available to anyone with an internet connection. Maxwell's smile never wavered. An admirable attempt, but ultimately futile. He gestured toward one of his operatives, who produced what appeared to be a portable EMP device. This will disable all electronic systems in a 100-yard radius. Crude but effective against your broadcast equipment. You can't stop information that's already been released. Lily's bluff carried just enough conviction to introduce doubt into Maxwell's calculated certainty. Has it been released, though? His gaze flicked toward the countdown display, still showing 20 seconds remaining. I think not. The operative activated the EMP device, its distinctive whine building toward discharge. In that moment, several things happened simultaneously. Dr. Chen launched herself across the room in a desperate attempt to disrupt the EMP. Nova operatives moved to intercept her, and Harold Anderson produced a small device from within his medical garments that no one had thought to check for. Override Protocol Joseph 742, Harold commanded, his voice suddenly strong despite his weakened condition. The apartment's systems responded instantly, lights flickering as emergency protocols engaged. The EMP discharged with a pulse of energy that should have disabled all electronics within range. Yet the broadcast console remained operational. Protected by shielding, Joseph had integrated into the apartment's very structure. Broadcast initiated, the system announced with mechanical calm. Worldwide distribution in progress. Irreversible information deployment achieved. Maxwell's composed facade cracked, rage distorting his aristocratic features as he realized what had happened. Kill them all. No witnesses. Nova operatives raised weapons, but Harold had one final surprise prepared. The small device in his hand activated with a soft beep, triggering defensive systems built into the apartment's architecture. Concealed panels slid aside throughout the room, revealing automated security measures that instantly engaged the intruders. Joseph didn't just plan for information distribution, Harold explained to Maxwell's shocked expression. He created an entire defensive infrastructure. You're standing in the most sophisticated trap ever designed, old friend. Chaos erupted as Nova operatives found themselves targeted by precision incapacitation systems, non-lethal but overwhelmingly effective. Maxwell himself stood frozen in disbelief as his tactical advantage evaporated in seconds. His team disabled by security measures they hadn't detected during their breach assessment. How? Maxwell demanded, his carefully cultivated control finally shattered. How did you know about the defensive systems? Joseph never trusted you. He didn't, Harold agreed, a lifetime of regret evident in his voice. But he trusted Daniel. My son discovered the truth about their connection years ago. He's the one who showed me what you'd become, what we'd both become in pursuit of power. Too late for me to make amends while he lived, but perhaps not too late for his daughter. The broadcast system chimed again, confirming successful worldwide distribution. Joseph Miller's quantum technology research was now public knowledge, accompanied by comprehensive evidence of Nova's crimes in attempting to control it. On monitors around the apartment, breaking news banners began appearing as major media outlets received and began processing the information bomb that had just detonated across their networks. Maxwell lunged toward Lily in a final desperate attempt to salvage something from his collapsing ambitions. The child! She's the key to controlling the technology, the perfect genetic match. Before he could reach her, Maxwell found himself confronted by both Harold and Dr. Chen, their combined protection forming a human barrier between danger and the next generation of the Miller legacy. Security systems completed their work. Nova operatives fully neutralized as law enforcement alerts triggered automatically throughout the city. It's over, Maxwell, Lily stated with quiet certainty. Sophia held securely against her chest. The technology belongs to everyone now. No one person or corporation will control it. As sirens approached in the distance, Maxwell's expression shifted from rage to calculating assessment, the look of a man already planning his next move despite apparent defeat. You think this ends with public exposure? You think the world is ready for what Joseph created? There are forces beyond Nova with interest in quantum technology, forces that won't be deterred by legal niceties or public opinion. Perhaps, Lily acknowledged, her own expression hardening with resolve. But they'll have to go through me to get it. And unlike my grandfather, I won't disappear for 3 years. I'll stand my ground and finish what Joseph started. 6 months later, Lilly stood on the observation deck of the newly established Harper Institute for Quantum Research, watching as technicians made final adjustments to the world's first commercial-scale quantum core energy installation. The Chicago skyline spread before her, autumn sunlight glinting off buildings that would soon draw power from technology that had cost so many lives to bring into public domain. Dr. Chen joined her at the railing, her formal research attire reflecting her new position as the Institute's chief scientific officer. The primary activation sequence has been verified. We're ready to initiate whenever you give the word. Sophia, now a robust 6-month-old with Daniel's expressive eyes and Joseph's focused intensity, watched the proceedings from her carrier with uncanny awareness. The blue glow that had manifested during her birth had faded, but medical scans continued to show unusual brain activity patterns. Quantum entanglement somehow integrated into her developing neural structure. "Any word on Maxwell?" Lily asked, though she already knew the answer. Despite overwhelming evidence of criminal activity, Nova's former CEO had leveraged political connections and legal maneuvering to avoid the most serious charges. House arrest in a luxury estate hardly seemed appropriate punishment for orchestrating multiple murders. But the justice system had always operated differently for men of Maxwell Graham's stature. Still under restricted movement orders, but his legal team filed another appeal yesterday. Dr. Chen's expression reflected pragmatic acceptance of imperfect justice. The financial penalties have been more effective. Nova's stock has lost 70% of its value since the revelations. The company won't survive in its current form. Harold Anderson approached from the elevator, moving slowly but with increasing strength as his recovery progressed. The past months had transformed him from corporate titan to reluctant whistleblower, his testimony proving crucial in the ongoing investigations into Nova's activities. Victoria's attorneys delivered divorce papers this morning, he reported with resigned amusement, apparently testifying against her oldest friends and destroying the family's corporate connections was the final straw. Lily offered no sympathy, their relationship still evolving from adversarial to cautiously collaborative. Harold had proven his commitment to protecting Sophia, but decades of ruthless business practices couldn't be erased by a single act of redemption. The activation ceremony begins in 30 minutes, she reminded them both, professional focus overriding personal complications. The governor will be expecting a demonstration that justifies the state's investment in quantum infrastructure. The Harper Institute represented Lily's vision for Joseph's legacy, not just revolutionary energy technology, but an ethical framework for its implementation. Named for her mother's family to create psychological distance from both Miller and Anderson influences, the Institute operated as a public benefit corporation with strict governance preventing any single entity from controlling the quantum breakthroughs. As the ceremonial activation approached, Lily found a moment of private reflection in her office, overlooking the research floor. A photograph of Joseph stood on her desk, alongside one of Daniel, the two men whose lives had shaped her path without ever knowing how their stories would intersect through her. "We did it, Grandpa," she whispered to the empty room. "Your work is helping people now. Not a weapon, not a corporate asset, just clean energy available to everyone." Sophia cooed from her playpen, tiny fingers reaching toward the ceiling where mood lighting mimicked the quantum core's distinctive blue luminescence. The gesture drew Lily's attention upward just as a notification chimed on her secure terminal. Perimeter alert, unauthorized access attempt at the Institute's east entrance. Security feeds showed a familiar figure being detained by building personnel. Not a physical threat, but potentially more dangerous in other ways. Victoria Anderson, impeccably dressed and imperiously demanding access to see her granddaughter. Lily hesitated, weighing complex considerations. Victoria had publicly disowned her after the Nova revelations, choosing wealth and status over family bonds. Yet she was Sophia's only remaining link to Daniel besides Harold, a connection to half her heritage that might prove important in years to come. Decision made, Lily instructed security to escort Victoria to her office. Whatever happened next would be faced directly, without intermediaries or corporate maneuvering. The time for shadows and secrets had ended with Joseph's research becoming public knowledge. The quantum core hummed to life below, its revolutionary potential finally unleashed for humanity's benefit rather than corporate profit. Lily lifted Sophia into her arms, the child's weight grounding her in present reality despite the technological marvels surrounding them. Your great-grandfather changed the world, she told her daughter, moving toward the door to face whatever came next. But you, Aurora Sophia Bennett, will determine what that change means for the future.